Good morning. I'm Reverend Alan Taylor. Welcome to this live stream service of the Unity Temple Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We're doing things a little differently on Zoom this morning, as only us participants will have our video screens on during worship. During the postlude, you will be invited to turn your screens on. I'm Reverend Alan Taylor. Welcome to this live stream service. So we'll have our video.
All right, let's try again.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Alan Taylor. Welcome to this live stream service of the Unity Temple Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We're doing things a little differently on Zoom this morning, as only us participants will have our video screens on during worship. During the postlude, you will be invited to turn your screens on so that others can see you. Although it may look like I'm at Unity Temple, I'm broadcasting from my living room. I'm grateful that you are connecting with us, and I'm grateful to our worship team who make it possible for us to reach you each week. And I'm so glad you're with us. If you have a chalice, I invite you to grab it now as we light our chalices for the growing connections among us and the promise of liberation, even in this time.
We are Unitarian Universalist. This is the church of the open mind, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. We take care of the planet Earth and each other. Our opening words are in part from the Reverend Elizabeth Tarbox. And so I say ours is a story of faith and hope and love. I say it is our need for one another that binds us together, that brings us laughing and limping into relationships and keeps us at it when we otherwise might despair at the fix we are in. I say it is the holy we need, the eternal beyond our comprehension, and one place we can find it is here, working and worshiping together virtually. And I say there is a transcendent value worthy of our loyalty upon which we may set our hearts and its divine manifestation is love. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your life journey, wherever you are in the world, you are welcome here with us. Come, let us worship together.
"'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we won't be ashamed. To turn, turn will be our delight, till by turning, turning we come round right.
Please join with me in the words of our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Today, Reverend Emily is giving the sermon, and I will share the message for all ages. As we enter our fourth week of physical distancing, it sometimes gets really hard. My kids often say, "It's really boring." And they say something that a month ago they never would have believed that they would be saying a lot. "I wish I could be at school." Because of the demands upon me, I can't say that I'm ever bored, but I do sometimes say, "I wish my kids could be at school." It's challenging to be in the same house all the time, and it's natural to sometimes get upset with each other. And this is a time to practice what it means to be a family. When I'm talking to the adults only, I often talk about practices, spiritual practices. Another way of saying this is exercises. Just as there are exercises for the body and exercises for the mind, there are also exercises for the spirit. Exercises for the body make us physically stronger. Exercises for the mind make us more alert and smarter, while exercises for the spirit make us more open, accessible, loving. Exercises for the spirit grows that inner smile within that helps us to be the best person that we can be. Would you take a deep breath with me? And another. So what gets you breathing? Breathing deeply. Answer that, and that's one kind of spiritual exercise. What helps you clear your mind? We use our minds so much, and sometimes they take control of us when we're really scared. And exercises of the spirit help us connect to who we really are underneath all of our fears and anxieties. So what helps you clear your mind? Maybe it's focusing on something and thinking about good things. I love looking at a flame and just focusing on it and letting my breath deepen and my body relaxes. Maybe it's movement. I invite you to move with me. Stretch your arms out and bring them to your heart and breathe. Stretch them out again and bring them into your heart as if you're bringing in good energy and love into your heart. And now move your hands up and out and breathe. And again, open them up as if you're sharing what's inside of you with everyone outside. That's a spiritual exercise. Now, do you like to dance? My whole family loves to dance. And putting on music that we can move to lifts our spirits. And guess what? That's an exercise of the spirit as well. It's a spiritual practice. Sometime we've got to all get together and dance together here virtually. We're not going to do that right now. But right now, I want you to consider what lifts your spirit such that you can be all of who you are. This month, we're exploring the theme of liberation. And one aspect of liberation is letting go of everything that prevents you from being who you really are and doing exercises every day that lift your spirit. And there's something about spiritual exercises that are just like physical exercises or exercises for the mind. You've got to do it regularly if you want to become more open and loving. You've got to do it like every day, even when you don't really feel like it. That's why spiritual practice is called practice. We do it, though it's not always perfect and we don't always feel like the way we want to feel. But over time, we deepen and grow to where we want to be. Now, one practice my family has is going out for a walk or bicycle ride just before dinner. The kids have learned that I'm working nonstop until about 5 or 5:30, and then I tell them it's time for us to go outside. And almost every day they say, "What? Again? We went out yesterday and the day before that." And I say, "Yeah, whether we want to or not, we're going outside." And usually we go for a bicycle ride. And there's something so beautiful for my own spirit to be on a bicycle after a long, often challenging day. And sometimes I can feel tears rolling down my cheeks. Sometimes there's simply a sense of relief, letting go. And sometimes my spirit becomes so light that I just break out into a scat. Do you know what scatting is? Shoo-ba-doo bop 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 dooba 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 ba doo bop ba dooba 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 ba dooba 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 ba. You get the idea. So, what lifts your spirit? What brings you joy? What makes you smile, not just on your lips? What makes you smile on the inside, knowing that you are loved and love is at your core? Choose one or two exercises, spiritual exercises, exercises for the spirit every day. And maybe for your family, it is picking up a guitar and singing together. Maybe it's lighting a candle and sharing what you are grateful for with one another. But choose one or two and do them every day, even when you don't really want to. And you will discover that you will become spiritually stronger. That is, you will become more open and accepting and loving and compassionate. You will become ever more the person that you are called to be. That's my message for all ages. A spiritual practice we have as a spiritual community is called holding each other in our hearts and sharing the prayers of the people. Who are you holding in your heart at this time? Let me know by email or text, and I will gladly share. Molly Clouden shares that Maisie Ann McKenna, daughter of Catherine Clouden and Jude McKenna, was born yesterday, April 4th, and is a ray of sunshine in the lives of all people who love her and her parents so dearly. Larry and Molly say they are over the moon with joy. Jerry Messler writes, I am a happy and very thankful father. My daughter Anne lives in Seattle and had symptoms that sounded like COVID-19. She only talked to her doctor on the phone. Friday, a friend who had it said she thought Anne had it too. Anne is now much, much better, and her father is now smiling again. Mani Rao offers up her singing as prayers for this time and invites her fellow Unity Temple members in an online international gathering of the Zoroastrian community, where she is the featured singer this evening. Val Igarashi says, I'd like to pray for everyone in the world suffering from any health or financial difficulties, and pray for physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual healing for all beings on the earth every Sunday until the virus crisis is over. Meg Koshimura writes, our dear friend James is in the ER and has tested positive for COVID-19. He has a heart condition. Please pray for his recovery. Locally, the following people were reported killed between March 29th and April 3rd. Victor Cervantes, age 23. Miranda Garnello, 24. Darius Lane, 16. Laszlo Lyons, 25. May we keep their families and others touched by violence in our prayers. May we also pray for the perpetrators and the impact the violence will have on their lives as well. And John Singer writes, please keep all the immigrants who are in detention and at the border in your prayers. Karen Buells writes, I would like prayers for my extended family members, Sandra Bimpa and her son Joe and daughter Leanne, who all have the virus. Sandra has been in ICU for 2 weeks and has underlying health issues. And Stephanie Beard prays for guidance in making good choices when and if doctors like her must determine who gets a ventilator and who doesn't. For there are plenty of patients who enter with heart attacks, pneumonia, and other illnesses that also require respiratory support. Alex Beard is holding in his heart our local hospitals at West Suburban and Rush Oak Park, as well as hospitals all over the Chicago area that are struggling with equipping their medical workers with adequate supplies to keep them safe. He is also praying for all the medical personnel and housekeeping staff who have health risks, who are showing up for work. Alex and Stephanie pray for greater wisdom among leaders in hospital administration across the country, so they promote health and safety for everyone in the hospitals, from doctors and nurses to respiratory therapists to the custodians who have to clean the rooms and are often overlooked. And Dan Canton prays for the people in New York, including his cousin Bill, who is an EMT and has been diagnosed with COVID-19, and who lost a good friend of his on the job, who died after only 10 days of illness. May we hold in our hearts the many families that are losing loved ones so unexpectedly and cannot gather with family and friends to mourn.
Let us unite our hearts and minds in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life and love, our hearts and minds are full with all that life has to offer us. We give thanks for this day, for our spirits gathering together with a reminder that we are not alone. We hold in our hearts those who are ill and dying. We send them healing and love. May we remind ourselves that we are strong and resilient, and that we will persevere today and the next day and the day after that. May we remember to be kind and courageous and know that we are loved. Amen. Blessed be. This poem is from the Reverend Lynn Unger, my friend and colleague. It's called Imagine. Imagine with me for a moment. Don't worry, I'm not saying it's real. Imagine, if you can, that there has not been a calamity, but a great awakening. Pretend just for a moment that we all so loved our threatened earth that we stopped going on cruises, limited international flights, worked on cherishing the places where we already are. In this pretty fantasy, everyone who possibly can stops commuting, spends the extra time with their kids or pets or garden. We have the revelation that everyone needs healthcare, sick leave, steady work. It occurs to us that healthcare workers are heroes, also teachers, not to mention the artists of all kinds who teach us resilience and joy. Imagine, if you will, that we turn to our neighbors in mutual aid, trading eggs for milk, checking in on those who are elderly or alone. Imagine that each of us felt suddenly called to wonder, in this moment, what does the world need from me? What are my gifts? Yes, I know it's just a fantasy. The world could never change so radically overnight. But imagine. Imagine. For a long while before it happened, I knew it was a possibility that we would have to shelter in place. I made sure we had prescriptions filled and certain foods in the house. But I wasn't really prepared. I didn't really imagine what it would be like or feel like, not really having experienced anything like this before. On day 24, I have a pretty vivid picture. Because now I can and do work from home, and because the rest of my family is also schooling or working from home, our world has become a lot smaller. At most, It expands to the number of blocks we walk around in Northeast Oak Park. I can remember other times when our personal world seemed small, like this, like when our son Paul was an infant and we were not allowed to take him anywhere because he was so tiny. Or when I was recovering from appendicitis and I lived on the couch, but never when it felt like a good deal of the rest of the world was doing this at the same time. Right around the time we made the decision to shut down our in-person activities at Unity Temple, it was the time for me to start thinking about writing my column on liberation, our theme for April. Honestly, getting things shut down took so much energy that it didn't occur to me to throw out our theme. And you know, I like a spiritual challenge. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about how, through no real choice of our own, we have, in a sense, been liberated from a lot. Particular parts of our routines, endless opportunities outside of our homes, in-person social gatherings, sports, both as spectator and most as participant, time away from each other in the same house. When I was talking to Marty Swisher, our music director, this week, she said, it's like we got a permission slip that we didn't ask for or didn't want to let go of a lot of things. And so in the moments when I am not exhausted or overwhelmed or frightened or sad, I contemplate the opportunities that these days provide. The other day, I was standing and looking into the refrigerator when I noticed a few jars of condiments that had been hanging out there unused for a couple of years. I have noticed them before, but always thought, someday, maybe I will throw those things away. But as I stood there the other day, I thought, hey, why not now? I cleaned off one shelf and then I thought, well, I've got at least another month to finish this project, so no hurry. So a little part of my fridge is less cluttered and cleaner, and it feels good when I see it. And I feel this spaciousness of time in which there will be more opportunity to tend carefully to the space around me. Always before, it has felt unimportant, and I have felt too rushed. It's a tiny little gift in this weird new life. For some reason, we have a house that is well set up for birds to create nests on the roof support beams. Currently, Paul and I notice we have 4 nests. After counting our own nests, we walked slowly up and down our block to see where the other nests were built. Now, of course, I walked up and down our block about a bazillion times in the 9 years that we've lived here. Always before, though, these excursions have been on the way, focused on our destination, or just part of an exercise break, or as part of a neighborhood conversation or gathering. This walk was just for breathing in the fresh air and noticing. In all that letting go, I really saw some things I have never seen before. Another little gift. Also, we have by far the most birds' nests on any one house on our block. This letting go, this unwelcome liberation opportunity asks us to ask ourselves what is most important. This includes the most mundane of details. We've had to find a good space for Paul to tend to schoolwork and Zoom calls with teachers and classmates. I needed to find my space, a different one, for work and Zoom calls. For about a week, I sat on the bed in the only room that doesn't get used much on a regular basis. Then I realized I needed a table and chair. Also, I can close the door. Not much more is needed or is important. We are cooking and baking with the things that have been in the freezer or pantry for a long time. More important to be safe than to venture out if we don't have to, and so on. But this question is a bigger one as well. This week, I have seen in multiple places on social media the following thought. I'm sorry, I don't know the original source. You are not working at home. You are at home during a crisis trying to work. You are not working at home. You are at home during a crisis trying to work. This felt like a revelation to me. It felt like a revelation to me because despite the fact that we have a global pandemic going on and our lives have changed drastically, we are still in new ways, trying to go about our routines. Even if you are not working at home, you are still sheltering in place when not working, maintaining a job during a crisis, or just at home in a crisis, maybe out of a job. We're all still trying to do our jobs or having our kids trying to do schoolwork or whatever else our routines are. Many of us, as best we can, try and forget that we are in a crisis. It's a perfectly normal coping mechanism, and you can do this even while paying attention to all the safety measures. And because of all this, it still feels like it's all too easy to still be trapped in the expectations that we usually hold for ourselves in our daily lives, whatever they may be. In order to survive or even, if possible, thrive in some way during this time, we are going to have to be liberated from a lot of expectations. Just being in a crisis is exhausting, not to mention added personal layers of being in crisis that some of us may be experiencing. We've got all kinds of big feelings we are working through. We may be experiencing those feelings right now, or we may experience them later. We may go up and down from day to day. Whatever we are or you are experiencing is normal stuff, even if your way of being looks completely different from someone else's during this time. And so expecting ourselves or others to be carrying on in the same way as we do in normal times is harmful. Imagine, Lynn Unger urges us. Now that we are in this time, I pay closest attention to those tidbits that remind us how to best live our days in these difficult times. These also came from the source that reminded us that we are not really working for home. These ideas too are good to remember. Your personal, physical, mental, and emotional health is far more important than anything else right now. And you will be kind to yourself and not judge how you are coping based on how you see others coping. And you will be kind to others and not judge how they are coping based on how you are coping. In other words, we must let go of the narratives in which we are not taking good care of ourselves or allowing ourselves to feel what we feel, whatever it is. We must imagine living our days with these at the center of our decision making, being kind, prioritizing our physical, mental, and emotional health. This is day 24 of shelter in place for our little corner of Illinois, and it has passed both quickly and interminably slowly. I have one of those vivid memories from the moment that Paul woke up on Friday morning, March 13th, and wondered why we weren't already up and working on getting ready for school. The thing we had long half imagined was finally real. So much has happened since then, and there is much more ahead of us. A little over a month ago, I was getting our fourth graders ready for their chalice ceremony, and I was talking to them about how the ceremony during our worship service was a rite of passage. I explained to them about how that partly meant that they were going to be changed by their participation and that people were going to see them differently afterwards, and that they were likely going to feel different themselves. What we are going through now is not the same kind of rite of passage, but it is one nonetheless. We will all be changed by this experience that we are having right now. It's awful, it's hard, it's been made more difficult and horrible than it needed to be, and it is an opportunity. Imagine what may be. Imagine, Lynn Unger writes, that there has not been a calamity, but an awakening. Maybe we will someday be able to look back and know that this was so, or perhaps that it was both a calamity and an awakening. If that all feels too big for right now, I understand. My survival technique these days is simply one day at a time. But if we can live each of those days being kind to ourselves and others, letting ourselves feel what we feel, centering our physical, mental, and emotional health, then there really will be an awakening. May we be liberated from that which harms us. May we focus on kindness and love. May we know that this is what the world needs, and so May it always be. Our offering this morning is designated for UUANI. Our offering this morning is designated for UUANI, Unitarian Universalist Advocacy Network of Illinois, and you can do so via our website or by sending a check to Unity Temple. There's information on our website about that. During the postlude, you're invited to turn your video back on as we prepare for coffee hour. Our closing words are some of our favorites from John Morgan. In the end, it won't matter how much we have, but how generously we have given. It won't matter how much we know, but rather how well we live. And it won't matter how much we believe, but how deeply we love. Go in peace and love.